Erik Henry, congratulations on your recent Emmy nomination for your work on Black Sails. This is your fourth career nomination, and you've won twice already. So at this point, is it still exciting whenever you get the news that you've been nominated?
Yes, always. Because, I mean, everything that you do, whether it's a series or not, the seasons are all so individual. And I think fondly of the work that was done on this one because, we were so involved with the special effects team and the actors and, building what we had to build for a storm sequence to make it, as we tried to do. We tried to make it better than Master and Commander. So we had lofty ambitions, and I mean, that's a lot different than what we did on season 1 or season 2. So there's still excitement always about being recognized by really your peers. I mean, they're the ones who take the time to look at these at the various nominations, the work that we do, and say, yes, it's worthy, or no, it's not. And I always tell people, win or lose, at this point, we're down to the top 5, in our category. So that's pretty good company, and you can be excited about that.
Absolutely. Well, you are a 2-time winner, once for the first season of Black Sails and also for your work on John Adams. So take us back to those moments where you won. Give us an inside look into the creative arts ceremony.
Let's see. I can tell you, nerves. I'm one of those people who is, has always been racked by, the anticipation. And I can tell you, in both John Adams and in the first season of Black Sails, I sat in the audience, not really listening to anything around me, kind of my head down, kind of my hands in my, my head in my hands. And, it's nerve-wracking. You want to make sure that if you do get a chance to go up there, that you don't look like a fool, and that you remember people who were really important. So you prepare, and the night before or whatever, and say, hey, if I'm lucky enough to go up there, who would I thank? But it's it's nerve. I'm not a natural public speaker, and going up there with a huge audience like that. I remember when they called our name for John Adams, that I stood up, and I almost didn't even recognize. My wife was with me, and of course she stood up with me, and it was like, oh, do I go this way or this way? I didn't even take the congratulations from my wife, because it was like, oh, this is going to be a long slog up there to the stand. And as the senior supervisor, you have to be the one who says everything. They only let one person talk. So it's all eyes on you. And some people really thrive on that. I do my job, and that's not usually part of it. I mean, I do talk to small groups of people, and that I'm very comfortable with. But it's a different animal when you have the television cameras and the clock is ticking down, and big letters, big numbers are telling you it's almost time, and it always seems too short. That certainly is my recollection of both of them. It's like, oh my God, I can't think half these people I thought I was going to think.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Let's talk a little bit about your nominated episode. It's episode 20, or XX, as it's said on the IMDb page. Talk a little bit about that episode and the special effects centerpiece within it.
Yes. So for us, we call it 302. It is episode 2 of the 3rd season. And in that episode, our showrunner, John Steinberg, had come to me and said, what if we have a storm, and what if we have people who are actually up in the upper rigging of one of our big square rigged ships, who actually through a series of events are cast into the water below to their deaths. And I said, well, that certainly goes beyond master and commander. I mean, there's one person who ends up in the water in that movie, but so they wanted to have about 6 people up there, and that's a tall order, especially knowing that because we had won an Emmy, there was an expectation on the part of John and the studio stars to deliver that kind of quality. I think television in general right now is just going through an amazing sort of heyday in that the quality of effects and effects work in at least cable or paid television certainly rivals film. And so we knew that when he said that, it wasn't going to be something that the audience would look at and say, yeah, okay, it was kind of okay. That's where they went too far, because they couldn't make that look real. And that's the way television is. Well, we didn't have that. We knew that it was going to be scrutinized in a way that that not only the casual viewer, but people in the industry, the visual effects industry, would look at and really critique severely. So, in taking that on, we said, okay, we want to make sure that we have the most success, and the most success, in my opinion, comes from relying heavily on things that are real. We're lucky enough to have full-scale ships. While we have to put the sails and the rigging in and the upper masts, and we have to put it in the water because it sits on a cement platform, for the most part, there is that thing that actors can act with. They can, there's a stage for them to act on that's real. And that combined with the special effects, the help from our special effects captain, Paul Stevenson, where he was able to dump 4,000 gallons of water onto the actors at one time. He had, people spraying literally with water hoses in the face of the actor, with V8 engines blasting the water. We had jet engines at some points blasting mist, air atomized water onto the deck, all to give us the sort of starting point that we then used in visual effects to add the water and the storm, and and also, of course, the few shots where you have to step outside of that acting area and see the ships tossed amongst the waves that are 30 feet, 40 feet high. The challenges were just to deliver something, like I said, that was in that film quality, and take it a step above. There's a lot of us who've seen Master and Commander. We've always felt that it set a very high mark, and I think that this episode, comes very close, if not makes a equal statement in realism. It's what we lack in the spectacle of creature effects and science fiction spaceships and plasma guns and things. We make up for, I think, in just a simple fact that when you look at the show, you assume, and hopefully for that whole hour, you assume that this was shot live action, and that that you're transported into the time, into the period of the pirates. That's always been our goal. I think that we come very close, if I do say so myself, to allowing the audience to just let those effects disappear into the fabric of the story.
Right. It is certainly a dazzling sequence. You've you're a real special effects veteran. I mean, I was looking at your credits earlier, and you've been around really since practically the beginning of what we know as modern special effects. I mean, a lot of your early film work was on stuff like The Abyss and Total Recall and Batman Returns. You've done work on films like Alien Resurrection and even things like About Schmidt, which you wouldn't think would require a lot of special effects work. Um, Take us back to those early days of discovery, shall we say, when you and everyone else were just figuring out what computer generated effects and what special effects could do in films and now in television.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like a long time ago, but it's very true that, while while it seems like we've been using digital effects, using the computer in this industry for a long time, I don't consider myself that old. And there was a time when we used film. As a matter of fact, here in my office, I'm just peeking over here and seeing film elements that were shot for films that I did, more than a decade ago, that I brought in today to go through and see if I can find some mist elements that were shot on film that we would then scan and use in an episode that we're doing in season 4. So it doesn't seem that long ago that I was working on, as you said, shows like The Abyss and Total Recall at the old DreamQuest Images out in Simi Valley. And back then, being as young as I was, maybe I didn't appreciate what was going on around me, but I can say that I was in wonder of how things were accomplished and the monumental task it took to bring something to the theater. When it came to The Abyss, my recollections are of stages where there were gantries and motion control rigs were passing by, little submersibles. And, one of the tasks that I had was to roll back what had been photographed into a little tiny roll of, film that would be played back onto a little projector screen in the submersible, so that when the camera went by and took frame by frame and advanced the little roll that I had set up in editorial, the people would appear to be inside of that submersible working it. And, those things now are done quite, without fanfare, if you will, in the digital world. But that's not to say that it is easier. I think once you have a toolbox like we have today, you can invent and go so much further. I'm one of those people who is definitely a dreamer. I like to dream up things, and when my boss says, "What if this?" I usually go, that's interesting. And what if that? And what if that? And it's what they rely on me for. So I think, in a way of saying, in those days, thinking back on that, or Batman Returns, and being part of a show that, was the first show to have digital animals like penguins walking around. And we were still doing things at DreamQuest on The Abyss that were photochemically done, in other words, without the computer. But at the same time, there was the water appendage that moved around that was being done by ILM on the show. So it was a collaboration between the two companies. And, obviously that's now so famous. It was the precursor to the Terminator, the T2. So, there were great things happening back then, and it was a great education. I always say to people that along the way, there's 100 mistakes you can make, and I've made about 80 of them, and I won't make those mistakes again. So that's good. And that's not to say that there aren't more mistakes to be made, but that's how you learn, and that's how you make when you're a dreamer. It's how you make something better. I think is if you aren't afraid to make the mistakes, and you certainly use those mistakes you made in the past as yes, but we can't go in that. I can do that, and I want to be limitless. But I just have to skirt around this one issue because I've been bitten by that before. And so it's today, as I said, the television shows that are being done, and I like you noted, I've done a lot of features. So television isn't something that I came to and thought I would stay within for any length of time. I was asked to do it, and I've enjoyed every second of it. And the reason I've enjoyed it is because it's so much like film. It's just it's that good. There isn't anyone who can tell me that, oh, well, you've taken a detour from features to do television. Too bad for you. I would immediately say to them, hey, look at the work that we're doing inside this show. It is film quality. I'm getting to work with great people. The experience is great. I have absolute faith from my bosses, both at Stars and here in the production itself. And they trust me, and that kind of trust I don't take lightly. And I have to deliver on, and those are the pressures I live under, or pressures I put on myself, because everyone who sees the work just says, great job. I mean, wow, it really looks good. And there's very little critique that comes from anyone that I show the work to. So I'm very lucky to have high quality work and high quality experience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Erik, thank you so much, and congratulations on your nomination and on your work. And it's a pleasure talking with you.
Pleasure talking to you too. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.